I can't remember the last time we caught up.
Honestly, can't remember either, Nick. It's been a real long time.
Time flies anyway. What are we going to talk about today, Chris? What do you think? What's on your mind? What's grinding your gears?
Today we're going to talk about football, and in particular, this last week was an international break in the world of football, soccer, and I was trying to watch some highlights of UEFA's League of Nations League, and there's no clips on YouTube. Nick, it's driving me crazy in the sense of I find all of my content on YouTube, and I was trying to find particular France versus Croatia. There are no highlights, and the only way I could go to do it was if I went to UEFA's owned and operated platform, created an account, logged in, and watched it there. And to me, it's just like everybody should have highlights on YouTube. Like, it just feels like a fundamental part of any media strategy.
It feels like this day and age, YouTube is that one essential part of the playbook, right? That you need to have highlights available. The tricky part now is that highlights are so valuable in the eyes of consumption and fandom that you want to drive those audiences to your own platform. So maybe that's what UEFA was trying to do. But I feel like there's another way to do that. Maybe it's having different types of things available on your platform. It feels like you can't have a media strategy without having at least a base level of highlights on YouTube.
Yeah, I mean, I get trying to drive me there, but at the end of the day, like, is it better to have me watching your content to some degree than not at all? Because the reality is, like, I will just start going through Twitter or find somewhere to find that highlight. I mean, maybe it just goes to show anecdotally, like, I'll spend 5 minutes trying to find a highlight on Twitter before I will actually bother to sign up for another owned and operated platform. I mean, maybe that's not the ideal scenario for them, that I'm willing to do that instead of taking less time to sign up for their platform.
Well, I think the Nations League is also still trying to find its place in terms of what value it plays in the, in fandom. Obviously, they moved away from lots of friendlies to bring this competition to life, and yet not having it available and discoverable on the world's most consumed digital platform is pretty bizarre to me. So I am very curious as to why they would do that. I was talking to someone from another major sports league who operates a major platform, and I'm trying to be cryptic here a little bit, but they were saying that they've tried similar approaches by having it freely available, but on their own platform for different types of content, and just the loss of people they have as soon as they go on the platform, if there's any form of registration process, is just so significant. So they're losing a load of eyeballs by taking that approach.
Yeah, and I appreciate it's difficult, right? In the sense of a competition like that is going to have national broadcasters across Europe. It's not like in the US where it's one market per se, where they're going to have different broadcast deals with different home nations, but sort of defeats the purpose. In my eyes, Nick, like, it's all got to be about discoverability, which I think kind of leads into another part of the conversation, speaking football, is the news around pay-per-view and Amazon Prime. And you had an opportunity to speak with the folks at OneFootball, and, Patrick at OneFootball, we had an interview with him 2 years ago, was preaching about the potential of pay-per-view, and now it seems Amazon Prime's taking that a step further.
Yeah, I mean, one of the founding components of what OneFootball offered when they launched was this pay-per-view approach and opportunity. I remember even prior to Patrick, when Lucas was the CEO there, that was the big thing that they were talking about, and they were doing loads of deals at the time that were basically no rights fees, rev share on pay-per-view for a whole host of rights that are very similar actually to what's being offered in this Nations League deal, and now through Amazon, which is now offering that service in the UK. So Amazon's now making it available through Prime for, I think it's about £2.50. You can get access to these Nation Leagues matches, which is probably the lowest price point from a pay-per-view that I've seen in sports made available. But they've been doing that for quite a long time. And OneFootball has got a huge audience base, but it's not that type of consumer, right, with a Prime Video audience. So they had definitely been playing that card for a while. It's interesting, again, how you see these innovative ideas come up, but for mass adoption or more wider industry adoption, it still takes a long time to get there.
Yeah, I mean, for me, pay-per-view is just it's a great idea in the sense of I don't always want to pay a full subscription. It's, the closest thing I can think to it in the UK is Now TV, where if I just want to be able to get a one-day pass because it's the Manchester Derby or whatever it is, like, I'll go and do that, but I've still paid for 24 hours. And really, I just kind of want the one game. And I've always been surprised to the degree with which pay-per-view hasn't been as common, because I think combat sports, like, I've gotten plenty of pay-per-view fights, things like that. It's not like it's uncommon. So I am a little surprised that it maybe has taken this long to become more prevalent. Not that it's massively prevalent, but it feels like if Prime's doing it, it may be a signal that there could be motion for it in the future.
Yeah, normally if you have an Amazon or you have a YouTube making a big move, that's the type of stuff that can move the needle on consumer behavior, right? And that could lead to some more adoption across the wider industry as well. But I still think that despite them taking this initiative, they're doing it purely with rights that are definitely non-premium. So they're doing it with, for example, matches between, I don't know, might be like Germany and Slovakia. They will be available on the platform. So they're really targeting quite a niche audience base that maybe it would be some expats, maybe it would be just people who are just mass crazy football fans that might want to watch. That's a small audience group. So they're not losing a lot by doing this deal. They're not having to give up pretty much anything. It's just making content available that would not have otherwise been available unless you had through the UEFA's platform. And now the problem with going through UEFA's platform is no one really goes on their day-to-day. They don't really know that it's a destination. And same with other sports properties have had that as well. So the fact that Amazon does it means it's going to be much more discoverable and just much more likely people will actually adopt it, as you said.
Well, the other side of this as well is, you know how much I love having a conversation about piracy. And I think that is one of the issues is about accessibility, discoverability, where I know people will say it's not an apples to apples argument, but the thing about Spotify is the experience was so seamless, you didn't mind paying for it. And I think that's something most people these days have experienced with Amazon. They don't have an issue with just clicking buy now, where if that probably is easier than you going and trying to find an illegal stream where the cost is so low, the experience is so seamless. Are you better off having people do that? Because as you say, like Germany versus Slovakia within the UK, probably not a large audience. You're better off getting a few hundred people to purchase it than nobody at all. And just, it seems like a no-brainer because you know that game, what we've learned, you know, speaking to IMG with the Premier League, we know all those games are being recorded and broadcasted. It's just a matter of simply flipping the switch and where it goes. It's not like you're having to put in extra work to do it. You just have to give people the ability to do so.
Yeah, and the big thing is once you get someone to pay one time, they're just so much more likely to buy again the next time. So this is a great stepping stone for them to keep selling this type of service, giving more access to more content and just getting people to spend more money on their platforms, which could mean to more revenues down the line. I do remember that friction point you're talking about is that the one-click based nature of Amazon and Prime Video is, I think it's everything, because I think what we've seen across the wider industry is that has not been the case. I've had some pretty awful experiences trying to sign up to subscriptions and other pay-per-view one-day accesses on Now TV, and are like, well, you got to jump between your phone and your smart TV, and it gets very clunky. Whereas if you just take one click and I'm done, it doesn't take much for a twitchy buy finger to make an impulse purchase on the fly. And that's something that, again, OneFootball did really, really well. They were as close to it, that sort of experience as I've seen from anyone. I mean, actually, Prime's the leader in that, and has been for some time.
So the summary behind all of this, please stop making your content difficult to find, whether it's putting it on YouTube or highlights, whether it's using a seamless, one click for pay-per-view. Stop making your content so hard to find. People are willing to pay for it. People want to watch. But if you make it difficult to find, they're going to find another way to do it.